Hey y'all, so this is officially the first video that I am making. I've been getting a lot of people asking, to show off a little bit more about the shop, my record collection, the work I do, etc. So I figured why not? I'm gonna take a stab at this. It's gonna be super raw. No editing, no crazy little pop-up videos, this, that, and the other. We're just gonna do it all one take. And, hope for the best. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you around the shop, our space that we use. When I got this shop about 7 or 8 years ago, I walked in and it was originally a children's store. So super white walls, hardwood floors, kind of very like art gallery, plain looking. So my first question was, what's under these hardwood floors? Ripped up a couple boards and we saw the original concrete. I said, that's absolutely beautiful, let's rip up these floors. Then we started kind of punching through drywall and found the original brick behind, which I'll show you when we get back there. Just to backtrack, this building, we're actually located down in the South Street Seaport. So the building that I'm in is in one of the oldest buildings in New York. It's a landmark building, so I really wanted to kind of bring out the original architecture of the building and kind of give it more of an industrial feel. So going back to when they were ripping up the floors, I really can only work in sections because took them a while to kind of really work on. So this wall here was literally the first thing I worked on. I went on YouTube and learned how to wheat paste in about 3 videos. And what I wanted to do here was I wanted to recreate kind of like a New York City bathroom. Essentially, if you've ever been into New York City bathroom, it's just covered in graffiti, photos, and pretty much anything you can imagine. So I wanted to give it that feel, kind of like a tribute to New York. So I wheat pasted, and then I started just kind of tearing apart. Then I took paint and just splattered everywhere to give that effect. Because I am a neurotic collector of random things, it's ever so growing in here. My vinyl collection, which is going to be a whole nother story, is starting to take over everything. So we just added a whole vinyl record section here. This is actually all of my Japanese pressings, which are probably my favorite in my collection. I'm going to do more of an in-depth video about stuff like that, but just to give you an example, I mean, Japanese pressings are just the most beautiful, in my opinion, out of all pressings you can imagine. I mean, if you can see this one, it's this texture. It's almost like a leather kind of a feel to it. And then it's hand screen printed. Open it up, I mean, it's got this like little book, and I mean, it's amazing. Something really special with Japanese pressings, which, like I said, I'll do more of an in-depth video on stuff like this. This bad boy, Appetite for Destruction Anniversary. I'll probably do a whole video on this. There's just so much going on with this box set. If you're a fan, I mean, this is pretty much everything you need. These are the original singles replicated. Comes with obviously all the albums. Probably the most important one is this one. This is the Sound City demos. So it's the entire album, but it's all the outtakes and demos and different versions. And as a music lover, I kind of love how to hear songs come to fruition and become songs, or songs they never used. I mean, some of the songs that bands don't put out are some of my favorite songs. And then it's just, it's got some amazing, all kinds of crazy artwork and whatnot. Replicated tour posters and more posters. The certificate. So I'll go more into depth into this at another time. Coming over to this side. This was my main focal wall I wanted to have when people come in. I want people to kind of go to like different stations in the store and be able to spend some time and really just kind of take it all in. So this is an ever so changing wall of artwork. I'm constantly rotating photos or kind of whatever's inspiring me at the moment, but up here we have a picture of Hendrix that a friend of mine actually painted. She actually did it all by watercolor, which is just unbelievable. Steven Tyler in a jacket I did about a year ago. Axel from, I'd say about 3 years ago in a jacket that I did. This is a really cool piece. Any guys are fans of MC5? This is an exact replica of Wayne Kramer's guitar, which he's playing here. So this was made to be exactly like his original that I believe he actually took a white Fender, which you can see the paint underneath, and he hand painted everything on here. Probably the coolest thing here, it says, "This tool kills hate." They were super political, very anti-government and just anti-war, kind of very similar to what's happening right now. So I mean, it just shows how time repeats itself. This is one of many guitars that a buddy of mine does that we've been designing together. This is a double neck Gretsch. It's a baritone and a 6-string, which is kind of a strange combination. But if you see here, this is all hand-placed Swarovski crystals. And the pattern that was on here is there's obviously larger Swarovski crystals and smaller ones to give an ostrich skin print. Pretty neat. I mean, if you're on stage, you're going to be seen with that thing. Coming over here, just a couple of other things. Oh, this is a cool piece too. As a record collector, I love rare as far as like band covers or alternate covers or just the history behind certain things. So this is the Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the original cover, which is the crotch shot by Andy Warhol. This is the one that came out for Spain, as it says here. I'm not going to even try to say it in Spanish because I'll butcher it. But at the time in, what was it, 71-ish or whatever, don't quote me, but when the album came out, the leader of Spain was kind of like a dictator in a sense. And he really wanted to kind of control the entire country, and anything sexual he didn't want in the country. So the picture of the crotch was too much. So the Stones redesigned this for Spain, which essentially is, I think, a little creepy, to be honest with you. What else is going on here? Oh, this is cool too. This is a picture of Greg Allman. Cool story about this. This is the artwork for his last album he put out before he passed away, called Southern Blood. I had the luxury of meeting Greg back in 2014, 2015, and established a great friendship with his daughter. So she told me a couple cool things. So at the time, they met this tattoo artist who was based out of New York, but I think he's in LA now. And what this artist does, he paints with blood. So she showed her father Greg and said, "Dad, check this out." And he thought it was amazing. So what they did is they took a couple like vials of blood and they stored it away for a future paint. A couple years, go on, and Greg got really sick with cancer. He was right in the middle of touring, which he had to cancel. Just about wrapped up with the album, and then suddenly he just died out of nowhere. The album was finished, but it wasn't mastered, mixed, or anything. So the label said, "We're not going to put this out. It's not finished. We're not doing it." Then the Allman estate also said, "Well, we're not going to fund this. What's the point of that?" So probably the coolest thing, and it just proves how much of an amazing person she is, but Cher came out of nowhere and said, "Well, I'm going to put that album out." And if some of you don't know, Cher was actually married to Greg for a couple of years. I think they have a child together. But she teamed up with Greg's daughter and said, "Let's put this record out." So since it was going to be called Southern Blood, they called on that artist. He took the blood and painted this portrait in blood, which is super, super amazing. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful images of Greg and images altogether. So moving forward, I guess we'll turn around. Over here is just another section I'd like people to stop at. 2 guitars that we did. This one is all of my writing, and then my buddy that does the Swarovski came in and Swarovski'd all of the writing. So if you can see, it kind of has that shimmer to it in a sense. These photos up here, obviously Guns N' Roses, Randy Rhoads, and Nikki Sixx, they came from a friend out in LA. He came across this guy, this older guy, I believe his name is Gene Kirkland. Super old, cranky dude, but he was an amazing photographer, specialized in like 80s bands, lived in LA. And went to his place and just found thousands and thousands of negatives and said, "What are you doing with this stuff?" And he's like, "I'll never do anything with it." And he finally talked him into at least printing out a few and putting on an art show. So they worked something out. The guy hated it. He wanted nothing to do with it, but this is one of the prints. I believe this photograph of Guns is literally the only photograph from that actual set for that music video. So that's kind of a cool little piece of history. Coming over here, this is a really, really cool piece of art that I found at a flea market in Brooklyn. What this guy did, obviously this is a mirror, he took a picture of Mick and then hole punched it. And then took every little hole punch and glued it back on. I mean, I couldn't only imagine how long that took, but it's one of my most cherished pieces because, I mean, it's a local artist, and I mean, I've never even seen such a thing. A couple favorite albums. This is a Sabbath Platinum, Volume 4, which Sabbath, I don't want to say it on record, but probably one of my favorite bands. I've already shown 2 Sabbath albums already, so we're heading in that direction. Coming over here, another little station I want people to kind of stop at. Starting with the piano, somebody called me and said, "Hey man, my neighbor's giving away a piano. You just have to come get it." So I went over there, took a look at it, and I learned a little bit, but this piano I believe is from 1903, and it sounds like it's from 1903. And everyone's like, "Oh, you gotta get it tuned up, you gotta fix it, this, that, and the other." And I said, "No, I actually want to keep it in its original form. And when people come in here and play it, I want it to sound like it's from 1903. So, you know, whether it's a musician or somebody just messing around playing a song like Chopsticks or something, I wanted to have that old vintage sound. What else is on here? I mean, there's just so much different stuff on here. Oh, this is cool too. This is a guitar gifted to me by a gentleman by the name of Earl Slick. Slick played guitar for Bowie from, I believe, the early 90s up until Bowie passed away. So Slick, I believe this is his logo here, handmade this guitar for me as a gift out of just like a big chunk. I mean, this thing is like 20 pounds, out of a chunk of wood. And just nailed a bunch of stuff, aged it, kind of gave it a patina. Super amazing. I mean, out of all the guitars I have, I mean, this thing plays amazing. I mean, the way it looks versus the way it plays, it's like night and day. A couple of other things. Let me grab something to show you. So, going back to talking about the records and the history of album covers and how they're made and this, that, and the other, you know, owning a record really allows you to own the whole physical format. It allows you to own what the artist intended you to have. You get the artwork, I mean, you get the album, and then you get everything that comes with it. Books, photos, you know, stuff you can't download. Or, you know, when I listen to records, I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm kind of reading the liner notes and, you know, just looking at different things, and you learn so much. So the cool thing with this artwork was created by one of my favorite artists, Storm Thorgerson. Which Storm, I mean, gosh, she's done pretty much all of the Pink Floyd, I mean, Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, a few others, a couple Zeppelin. I mean, Storm is just, he was doing graphic design before graphic design was even a thing. So Zeppelin, I mean, could you imagine this job? Zeppelin handed him the music, with no art, and said, "Listen, come up with artwork for our album." I mean, I would just lose my shit. So Storm listened to it and he goes, I hear a presence. You know, I just hear a presence. So that's what they decided on the name. And it says presence on here, but from far away, you can't read it, and that's what they wanted. And they wanted this whole focal image. And if you notice, in the middle, there's this little thing. Then you open it up, and it's got all of these photos of people just doing random stuff with this thing, which is actually called the object. So what this object represents is presence. And it's kind of like, it means basically that there's something always there as a presence, and it's just a matter if you notice it or not. It's a really deep thing. I mean, it resonates now with, you know, like how people are just constantly on their phones and there's a whole world happening around them and they're just not even paying attention. So for promo, when they put this album out, they made 1,000 of these objects, and this is one of them. I got really lucky with this, and I was able to track this down, which says Led Zeppelin Presence, number 7 out of 1,000. So this is a pretty cherished piece in my collection. Coming over here, this is actually the last Led Zeppelin ticket for their last show, which John Bonham died about 3 days prior to the show. So the tickets were already printed at the time. And then, unfortunately, I think it was 1980 when John died. And I was able to get a ticket, have it framed with the whole story behind it. Poster from Greg, back actually from 2015. And then just random stuff, you know, like I want people to, like I said, to just kind of hang around, take a peek. The Ozzy box set, Pink Floyd, The Wall, 7-inch singles. I mean, this is also, it's a place where I don't know where to put things. I put them up here and let people kind of discover. It's like a layering. I mean, a Christmas card from Keith Richards, which is kind of cool. I find things on here, I mean, I didn't even know this. There's stuff in here that I don't even know that's on here anymore. So coming along this way, this guitar actually, what I did here was I actually smashed this myself, inspired by the Clash classic album London Calling. I saw an exhibit out in Seattle where they took one of Kurt Cobain's guitars and that was smashed, and they pieced it back together like in this glass case and as best as they could. And I just thought it was the coolest looking thing. I mean, this destruction, you know, like it just had so much meaning to it. And I said, I want to give that a shot. I want to kind of do something along those lines. So I had this extra guitar laying around, and I literally smashed it on the back, which is not as easy as it looks. The first time I actually hit it, it bounced back up and like ricocheted in my hands, which I wasn't ready for that. But I mean, I guess if you're playing on stage, you have the adrenaline already pumping. Coming across this way, framed records. Pretty much people that I've worked with or have stopped by, you know, from Alice Cooper to Todd Rundgren, Aerosmith, Jet. I'm sure you guys remember the band Jet. Such an incredible band from Australia. Candlebox. Alright, so coming along this way, and by the way, which I said I'm not going to do any editing or cutting. This is our first edit and cut because somebody just knocked on my door. So coming over here, another wall. Also, I didn't mention, I decided to paint the entire store black so everything would just pop. I love color. I also have a problem where I need to like fill up every single space and I can't have empty space. So hence a lot of the writing you'll see everywhere throughout the place. It's all handwritten lyrics, poems, quotes, just to kind of give it a backdrop and give it a kind of like a layering process in a sense. So coming over this way, here's 2 more album covers that are banned. Obviously, this is the Beatles Butcher cover. I won't get into super detail about that. Jimi Hendrix, the Naked Lady cover, which, you know, I guess in like the 60s that was a huge deal. Guitar, this actually is a really cool piece. This is a Les Paul that I got from when I was working with Guns N' Roses. This was from Slash, one of his 59 replicas. It's like £1 million, but such a cherished, coveted piece. Nobody touches this at all, ever, including myself. This is like, I actually got to dust it off. Coming over here, this is like our main kind of section of just kind of like our lounge. When I have clients or anybody come in here, I really want them to kind of feel like they're walking into my apartment or my house, and I want them to make themselves at home. I don't want it to look like a traditional store. So I want them to come in and sit down, and we discuss what we're going to work on, the design of the jacket. We pick out a record, we put it on, and we hang out. I mean, next thing you know, it's 3 hours later and we're still hanging out, and that's the kind of environment I really wanted to create with this space. Something a little bit different, something special, something for people to kind of remember when they come here. Going into retail stores, I mean, they're always so cold and uninviting, and you feel like you shouldn't belong there, and especially if you're not buying anything. And I decided I didn't want that vibe here. I wanted people to feel wanted, and they can have a place they can hang out and just look at things in a sense. So coming over here, this is my heart of the shop, is my sound system. So this is the newest edition, the Macintosh MT5 turntable, which I just added. Incredible piece. I have it going through the Macintosh MA5200 integrated amp. And then for speakers, I have the Definitive Technology, one here, one over there. And then for those people that are always commenting on speaker placement, which is probably everyone's go-to, but what these speakers are, they're called bipolar. And what that means is they come out of all three sides, so it doesn't necessarily matter about placement. I mean, I can have the speaker sideways. So you have tweeters up top, 1, 2, 3, the mids, 1, 2, 3, and then the subs, 1, 2, 3. So it's coming out of all dimensions. So you're hearing it from here and over there, but like I said, it's coming out and really filling the room and bouncing back and forth. Back here is a whole other story, but this is where all the work goes on and where all the jackets are created. I'll probably be doing a lot of videos back there when I'm working on jackets, but it's an absolute disaster back there, so I'm not going to show it right now. Just more records over here. All my box sets, which is, I'm trying to thin out a few. Up here, more guitars that we have with the Swarovski crystal. This is actually a really cool one. If you can see, this is also one of Slash's, it's got like a color like Anaconda green or something, but we did an animal print with Swarovski crystal on there, which is just absolutely gorgeous. And then, like I said, how I need to fill space up. I had the guitars hanging there for a while, and I said, I need to add more. And I didn't want to take away from the original brick, but I need to fill up that negative space with something. And I figured albums would be perfect. So I originally just put random albums up there, and it was too busy between the guitars and the albums. So then I took a step back, and I decided I'm going to find all of the black and white album covers and put them in there, just to fill the space. And it kind of allowed it to frame the guitars in a sense, but you could still see the album cover artwork. Coming over here, this is a guitar company that I've been working with, D'Angelico, New York-based company. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. The original D'Angelico, he was making guitars, I think like in the 1930s or give or take, but to find one of his original guitars, I mean, they're $150,000. So they're remaking them now. What's really cool, this actually represents the Empire State Building, which I absolutely love. And being in New York, I really just like to show any type of New York memorabilia. So D'Angelico, New York. More records over here. This is probably the most visited section. This is all my classic rock. It's a bit of a mess right now. I'll be diving into this in other videos with, you know, certain genres or certain albums, but these two rows I tried to make the most accessible, you know, starting with like Zeppelin, going into AC/DC, Bowie, Pink Floyd, Stones, Beatles, you know, Hendrix, just so I can reach them really quickly because I'm getting old and I can't bend down. I'm eventually going to organize, I don't know how. There's always like the big debate, is it alphabetical, is it, you know, by genre, this, that, and the other. I'm still figuring out, I don't think there's an answer to it. I mean, to each their own. This is a really cool piece too. I've been a huge Stones collector, which I think I'm gonna do a whole video on. This is an actual release that came out in France, but the cover is, it's like an arts and crafts project of like sparkles. And what's cool about this, you open this up and it comes with a t-shirt with the cover on it. With the sparkles. Which is like, could you imagine, you know, like whatever year this came out and you get a free t-shirt, and I think it's just like a compilation. It's got all the members on each sleeve. Brian Jones era, obviously, so. But I mean, what a neat piece of history right here. Yeah, so it's all in French, and it looks like kind of like a greatest hits comp. And yeah, pretty much for the most part, that's kind of like the gist of the shop. I'm going to be, like I said, getting more into detail into different things, especially records, mostly records, because I have so many, I might as well start talking about them. So let me know what you guys think, what you guys want to see, what you're interested in, what I can change, what I can't change. I'm probably not going to change anything. This is it. This is what you're getting, some on the spot winging it video. So cool. Hope you enjoyed it.